A couple of weeks ago, there was the Flame 7th birthday. So there was a challenge to implement a flame or fire animation using the Flame engine. So I just participated with this animation and I could win the challenge with this prize. And in this video, I'm going to explain the steps that I implemented the animation, and then I'm going to show you the prize that I received. So stay with me. Hi, this is Iman Neo. Welcome to my channel. And as you know, in this channel, we are talking about the Flame engine, we are talking about Flutter and software engineering concepts. And yeah, so in this video, we are going to talk about the Flame 7th birthday that I just participated and I could win the challenge. And first of all, I'm gonna show you the challenge rules. It is here. By the way, if you are not in the Discord channel, I highly suggest you to join it because there are a lot of cool things that you can read and discuss here. For example, we have Flame Forum. You can ask your question, you can open a discussion. Or for example, we have Share Your Flame Game channel that you can share your game, or you can take a look at the games that are developed by other people. And by the way, there's a channel called Announcements, and here you can listen to the announcements that are related to the Flame engine. And yeah, so this is the latest announcement. As you see, it was on October 22nd. And yeah, so it is very simple. Create an animation of Flame in Flame without any assets. So the point is that you cannot import any asset into the project that you are developing. And there are 4 rules. The first one is that you need to add this hashtag Flame 7 years in the post that you show your media or your animation. And then you need to paste a Dartpad link to the code. So it means that everything should be in a single main.dart file without any assets or images. So you can just put it in the Dartpad. So if you don't know what is Dartpad, Dartpad is an environment that you can just run your Flutter application or your Dart application. It supports both of them. And you can just run your code here to see the result here as a live application. And yeah, so the other thing is that you need to record a short video of your animation that is running. So it's simple, you can record your screen using any tool that you have. And we had a deadline that was October 27th. And yeah, so it was very simple. And when I read that, I immediately stopped looking at my screen and I just try to do anything else that I can focus and I can kill in my mind. And I wanted to take a shower, and yeah, I did that. And you know, when you are taking a shower, you can think about a lot of things. And in that time, I could think about the animation that I'm going to implement. And then suddenly I came up with the idea that I can just represent the contribution amount that are applied to the Flame engine, because it is the Flame 7th birthday and you know there are a lot of people that are contributing to the project, and it is 7 years that it is developing and it is thriving. So it was a moment that I thought maybe it's a good idea to represent this amount of contributions that applied to the Flame and made what we have right now with the Flame game engine. And yeah, so it was just a base or raw idea. After that, I developed it on my mind. And yeah, so after that, I just opened the Flame GitHub to see how can I download or how can I get the contribution amounts data using the GitHub. And the point is that there's a section called contributions, and it is here. And as you see, we have the contributors to the Flame game engine here, and this is the number 1. I think it is based on the amount of the contribution. For example, it is 138,000 and it is 83,000. And yeah, so we have top 100 contributions here. And then I realized that there's an option here that you can click and you see you can download the data as a CSV file. So I just downloaded it and I just opened with my table tool or any other tool that you have. And yeah, so as you see, we have 2 columns. The first column is the date time and the second column is the commits. So as you see, it is 0, 0, 0, 0. And for example, here it is 10, it is 24. Yeah, so this is the amount of commits or contributions that you have at this specific time. By the way, I think it is a 1 week duration for each of them. For example, it is 13, it is 20, it is 27. So you see that there's a 7 days between each row. And yeah, so this is something that you can download this file based on the contributors that we have here. So I just tried to download them one by one. I don't know if there's a better option to download all of them at once or not, but I just tried to download them one by one because I wanted to have the contribution per person. So I just stored the names and also the data that we have for the contribution. And yeah, so it was the proof of concept step that I realized that, okay, we have the data and we only need to implement the animation to map the data to the animation that we have. And then I started to design something. I mean, I just started very simple. I could download the assets that are available for the Flame. I mean, there's a repository called FlameEngine/brand. And here you can download the, for example, the font that they use, and you can download the logo mark, for example. Yeah, I just downloaded everything. By the way, here you can see what it has. It has the colors. For example, these are the branding colors that are used in the Flame. And here we have different kind of logos in different backgrounds. And yeah, so I just downloaded all of them. It's here. And the point is that they mentioned that you cannot use any asset, but the point is that you can, for example, have this logo using the canvas.drawPath function in the Flutter. So you are not importing any asset, but you are drawing this shape using the canvas that we have. So this is what I did. I didn't import them as a SVG file or PNG file. I just asked ChatGPT to convert it to some canvas.drawPath functions that I can use it in my Flutter application. So I'm gonna talk about it in the next step. But yeah, I just tried to import everything. And I just started to designing a simple screen. You know, this is the idea that I had to have a grid. You know, in the Flame website, there's a grid on the background. The idea came from here. And yeah, I just tried to do the same here. And after that, I came up with the idea that we can have the Flame logo in the center, and we can convert the Flame logo to some characters. So I could just add 2 eyes. I mean, these are 2 simple rectangles, and this way I could make it alive. You know, if you don't have these 2 eyes, it's a static or it's a simple logo that you have. But when I added these 2 rectangles, it's like a character that has eyes and it can move and it can throw some fires. And yeah, so it was using 2 simple rectangles here. And I just decided to put top 10 contributors here. You know, here we have 10 contributors. It is 9, but in the real animation it is 10. And here I just decided to have the community group. So this is the 90 other contributors that we have. So this is the top 10 and this is the other 90 developers. And in total we have 100 contributors. And here in the real animation, as you see, it is here, for example, and you see each name is showing in every step. And this is all the names that we have for the 90 contributors that we have. And they randomly throw a fire towards the Flame logo that we have. And yeah, so it was the design phase and the idea phase, and after that I started implementing it. And it is important that you don't have to start coding right after you see the rules, and it's better to have a break, to think about it, to design it, and to keep your mind constrained about the idea that you have. And yeah, so this was what I did, and in the next step I just started to implementing it. And yeah, so I'm going to show you the important steps that I developed the animation. In the first step, I just added the logo in the center. And as you know, we are not allowed to use any assets in the project. And that's why I just downloaded the logo that is here as a SVG file. So for example, you can download the logo as a SVG file here. And as you see, a SVG file just contains some numbers. So here, for example, we have a path that is going to these positions. So it's a convention to create the SVG files. There are some numbers that determines how the shape should be drawn on the screen. And you can just copy paste this code and you can ask ChatGPT to give you a code that you can run on Flutter using the canvas.drawPath function. And this way I could create the Flame Large logo class, and as you see here in the render, we have path 1, path 2, and these are the different sections of the logo. For example, text path 2 is this part. As you see, I just commented it, and as you see, we don't have the L anymore. And yeah, so this is something that is generated by ChatGPT. It's very simple. And yeah, for example, this is for A, and also these three are for the logo. You know, we have 3 different parts for our logo, and for example, the second one is this one. And yeah, so this way I could create the flame logo shape without importing any asset. And about the background, we have this file, and these are some layers that I put on top of each other to have the effect that you see. And yeah, so the first thing that we have, let me comment all of these. And yeah, so the first thing that you see, we have a simple red circle here. And if you comment it, we don't have anything. And yeah, this is just a circle that I added here. And after that, we have the lines. So as you see, we have 2 for loops for horizontal and vertical lines that we see here. And then I just added a circle, a black circle that has a gradient from color.black12, which is 12 opacity, to color.black, which is the pure black with 100 opacity. So this way I could create the gradient from transparent to full black. And after that, I needed to add another circle to hide these lines around it. And this is the last circle. So as you see here, we have this beautiful shape that shows the background. And in the next step, I wanted to have some points inside the logo that we have that I can run the flame or fire animation on them. And as you see here in the final result animation, the fire is just inside the shape that we have. For example, it is inside the L, it is inside the F, and it is not running outside of the shape that we have for the logo. And yeah, to do that, I just added a tap callback here to detect the taps that we have. And I just added a list of points to show here. And then in the render method, I just created a for loop here to go through the points that we have and just draw them inside the shape. And also I added a print statement here. So inside the untap down, I just added the point to the list and I just printed it here. For example, when I click here, it is this point, and when I click here, it is the other point. And I just started to filling the shapes that we have one by one and manually. So exactly this way. And then I hard coded the points that we have inside the code. So this way I had a lot of points that are inside the flame shape that we have, and then I could run the animation inside the points. And yeah, so it took a long time from me to fill the shapes. I mean, it was around, I don't know, 30 minutes, 20 minutes, something like this. But it was a perfect solution for that time because I just wanted to have some points that I can run the flame animation on them. And yeah, so after that, this is the next step. Yeah, as you see here, I'm gonna show you that we have all the points that we have. For example, these 3 are the logo left, logo middle, and logo right points. And if I comment them, as you see, we don't have the animation for the logo part. Yeah, and for example, this is the F part, this is the L part. And for example, if I hide the L, you see that we don't have animation or we don't have fire here. And yeah, so in this step, I just added all the points that we have and I just hard coded them. As you see, we have a lot of numbers that are for the different parts of the logo. And then I just started to working on the flame animation, and it is using the flame particle component system. As you see here, we have a timer in the onload method, and every 50 milliseconds I'm going to add these 3 layers of the particles. And yeah, so as you see here, we have some variables. For example, the lifespan is a random number between half of a second and 1 second. So this is the lifespan that we have for everything. And we have some colors, a start color, end color. And by the way, these are coming from the colors that I got from the Flame branding repository. And yeah, so finally we have 3 types of the particles: the circle, arc, and sparkle. So the sparkle is the ones that are moving fast, so these are going towards this part. And we have arc and circle for here. So let me show you what they do. As you see here in the draw part, we have a switch case over the particle type. So we said if it is a sparkle, do this. So if I comment out this part, you see that we don't have the sparkles anymore. And if I comment out the arc, you see that we don't have the behind flame for this part or the other parts. And the last one is the draw circle. So yeah, let me add this one. Yeah, this is the arc. As you see, it is not a full circle. It is like a shape that I just combined with the circle to have the fire animation. And yeah, so by the way, this is the power of particle system, and you have some random values, random movements, and as a result you will have this beautiful animation. And if you want to know more about the particle system, please let me know in the comments. I can record a dedicated video to explain the particle system in the Flame engine. And yeah, so by the way, we have a value here called intensity. So as you see, we are using here, I just multiplied the acceleration. This is the movement that we have for the particles. For example, I said that for a sparkle we have minus 900, that is moving too fast. And for the circle and arc we have minus 100, that is moving upward with a slower movement. And for example, if I change it to a positive number, it goes down. So as you see, this is the movement that we defined for the animation. And yeah, we just multiplied it with the intensity. And also we have the size. So it is the particle size twin that is going from 20% to 60% and then to 20%. So it increases the size and then it decreases back to 20%. And yeah, this is the size that each particle has inside the animation, and I just multiplied it by the intensity. And yeah, that's it. So intensity is 1 by default, and the point is that you can just change the intensity to, for example, 2. And if you hot reload, you see that it is working with more intensity. And if you change it to 4, it is like this. You can go with some crazy numbers. It is 10. Yeah, you know, it doesn't look good, but you can try different numbers to see how it works. And yeah, this is the default and the normal intensity that we have for the flame. And when a fireball comes, it bumps to something like 2 to make the intensity more in that area. So if you look at the design, when a fire orb comes, the intensity increases for the specific part of the flame. Yeah, you see that here, for example, we have a lot of intensity. And yeah, I think you got the idea. And yeah, so in the next step, I just worked on the flame outer shape and the eye animation, the blink animation. So it is here. And again, I asked ChatGPT to convert my SVG file to some canvas.drawPath methods. So this way I could create the shape for the flame outer that we have. And also I added the flame outer eye object, and we have 2 of them. it is here. So when the flame adder loads, we just add the left eye and the right eye. So these are two eyes that we have for the flame adder. And as you see, we have a next blink time, and it is a random number between 4 seconds and 8 seconds. So, you know, when you add the randomness to the animation, it feels more realistic than having a static number. For example, I could just have 4 here, and when you run the game, all the characters start blinking with each other, and then it is 4 seconds, and then they start to blink with each other. You know, it seems like a fake animation, but if you add the randomness, it feels more realistic, and that's why I just added the randomness for the blink animation and also for the flame animation here. And you know, here in the update method, we are setting the position for each eye, and then we decrease the next blink in timer. You know, we set, for example, 4 or 8 or any number between, and then we start increasing the DT from it. So as you know, DT is the time that is passed since the last frame, and when it is less than 0, it means that it is time to blink. And I just call the blink for the left eye and also the right eye, and then I just try to set a new next blink in variable to have the next blink. And the point is that in the blink animation, I just added a scale effect. So it is a simple rectangle shape. So as you see here, we have draw rectangle, and when it is time to blink, I just add a scale effect. You know, effects are some cool things that modifies the component that you have. For example, using the scale effect, you can just modify the scale property of the component that you have. And yeah, I say that it is going to 1 for x and 0 for y. It means that the y is gonna be collapsed, but the x is gonna be the same. And the duration is 100 milliseconds, and it has the repeat count of 1. So it means that we do this once. So we just close the eye, and we have a callback for on max when it is reached the maximum state of the effect or the animation. And after that, we just run the scale effect to 1 and 1, which is the default position. So here it just closes the eye, and here it just opens the eye back to the initial position. And yeah, so this way we have this beautiful blinking animation. And if you want to know more about the flame effects, you can just check the documentation here. Effects, yeah, it's here. So we have a lot of effects. For example, rotate effect for when you want to rotate something, move effect, for example, when you want to move the character or something. And yeah, so the point is that you can have repetitive animations simply using the effects. And yeah, so in the next step, it is in this commit, I just implemented the charging and shake effect. So if you click on the character, it runs the animation. You see that it moves, it seems like it is charging something, and then it releases the fire orb, and it is the animation. And to be honest, I got help from ChatGPT to implement it, because you need to work with the numbers to move the character to feels like a charging effect and releasing effect. So this is a time consuming process if you are going to do it by yourself, but I could ask ChatGPT to help me to create this effect faster. And yeah, so as you see, it is an effect that I just customized. It is not a built-in effect. But for example, the charging shake effect has max intensity, target, and the incomplete callback. For example, in the incomplete callback, you can just throw the fire orb that we have. And yeah, so as you see here, we have a sequence effect. So using the sequence effect, you can just run different effects sequentially. So the first effect is charging effect. So it goes like this. And the other one is move by effect. So it goes upward. As you see, when you run the animation, it jumps up after the release or after the charge effect. And then we just move the player back to the initial position. So it charges, it moves up, it goes back to the initial position. So these are 3 effects that are running sequentially when you for now when you press the button. And for the animation, it is the time that you have the contribution amount that you want to release a fire orb. And yeah, so the point is that after that we just remove the component. This component is responsible to run the shake and release effect, and after that we are just removing it from the parent. And yeah, so I'm not going to talk about the details because it takes a long time. You can read the source code. I'm going to put the link in the description, but it is how it works. Simply it is some movement effects. For example, in the charging shake effect, you see that we are just moving the player with some offset variables, and then when it is finished, we move the player back to the original position that we received from the constructor. And yeah, so these are the basic components that I created for the animation. I mean, there are some minor things that, for example, I just added a name on bottom of the players or the flame others. So it is a simple text component. You can read more about it here if you search for text component. Yeah, it is here. You can just render a text using the text component. And yeah, so let's go to the latest commit that we have in the main branch. So this is the final result animation. You see the scale animation with a bounce effect. So it is a scale effect that I just applied with a bounce curve. And also here we have some animations. For example, when it goes to the position of the flame, we run the shake animation and we remove the fill property of the paint that we have. We just have the borders, and when it moves, we just clip the component that we have based on the position that the player is moving. And here again, it is a simple text. Let me find it. To shape. Yeah, it's here. It is a text box component instead of the text component. And the point is that you can define the time per character, and it just shows the text, and each character takes 7 milliseconds to be shown in the screen. And yeah, so this is something that I didn't know that it exists. I just read the documentation, and yeah, it helps you to create this beautiful text effect. You know, when you show the large text, no one reads it, but if you show it gradually, everyone just read the text that you are writing. And yeah, so something that I want to show you is the movement that we define. So for example, the character moves to a place, the camera moves, and it goes to the right, the camera zooms out, and again the camera zooms in the position to see the text, and then you will see the zoom out camera, and then the animation starts. So I just created a phase manager. Yeah, it's here, and here I defined some phases that we have here. For example, we have, let me collapse them. Yeah, for example, we have a start phase that takes 4 seconds, and it is for when you see the flame in the first place, flame animation in the first place. And then we have moving to the logo left phase, that is for when the logo moves towards the left side of the animation. And then we have showing the flame logo phase, that is for when it shakes and it just shows the flame logo. And then we have flame move to right phase, it is for when it moves towards the right side of the screen. Then we have moving to the main position, it is for when it moves back to the top left side of the flame logo. And we have a start info phase, it is the moment that we show the information text. And then we have the first year animation, and then we have idle phase. So the idle phase is the phase that they just start throwing some fireballs, and as you see the duration is a big number. It means that it waits for a long time to have the animation and the progress. And yeah, so we have all phases, and the point is that in the update we are going to increase the phase timer, and when we reach a point that we need to switch the phase, we just notify the others. So we have the current phase, and it is a getter that everyone can get this one to get the current phase. And the point is that we have a phase observer. So this is the mixin that you can use on your components to react when the phase changes. For example, we have it inside the flame world to move the camera. You know, we have on phase change. Yeah, so this is the callback that is coming from the phase observer. And yeah, for example, we just listen to the current phase animation, and when it changes, we just call this callback. And this way you can just listen to the phase changes in your components. And for example, in the Flame 7 world, we are just listening to the on phase change. And if it is the start phase, we just reset the zoom to the initial zoom and we just move it to the initial position. And if it is moving to the logo left phase, it is the moment that player moves to the left side of the logo, we just follow the player using the camera.follow. And yeah, for example, in the showing start info phase, we just move the camera to the position and we just change the scale. So this is the same as zoom that we have. And as you see, we have 1.75 zoom. So it zooms towards the area that we show the info and so on and so forth. So as you see, we have other components that are reacting to the phases that we have using the on phase change. For example, in the flame top order, so this is the first order that is going to create everything. And here we say that if it is the start phase, position should be this one, the phase.initial position. If it is moving to the left, please do this, and so on and so forth. So this way I could have a phase manager on the top of the component tree, and it just changes the phase based on the duration that they have. And then the components can listen to the phase to react to the phase that they want to do something. So this way I could create the initial animation that the order just appears and it goes towards the logo and so on and so forth. And yeah, so that's it. I just explained the animation part and the implementation part. If you want to watch the full 4K video of the animation, you can click in the link above and you can watch it in a separate video. And now let's get into the more interesting part. It's the prize that I received. I mean, the Flame team sent it to me. And yeah, so let's start by the t-shirt that we have here. It is this one. So we have a t-shirt that the logo is here. And by the way, it is a little bit large for me. I'm gonna ask my mom to make it smaller because she's a tailor. And yeah, so I really love this t-shirt. The logo is shown here, so it's really good. And also I received this Nintendo controller. I mean, it's an old style controller that has a USB. You can connect it to the system and you can just write program to listen to the events that are coming from the buttons. I mean, I'm thinking to create a game using this controller. And yeah, also we have two buttons here. I really like this one. And after that, we have this copper plug. So it is a metal piece that you have the Flame logo inside it. It's here. I really like this one. And also we have a stand for the phone if you have it like this. So suppose that you can just put your phone here and it works like this. And also the other side is a smaller cut here that you can just put your copper here, and I'm gonna put it here for now. I mean, I think it is not visible to the camera right now, but it is fine for now. And also we have some stickers here. These are from the Flutter and Friends conference. And the point is that these are not a simple sticker. These are NFC tags. So the point is that you can just write some data to the NFC that they have. And it can be anything that you want. For example, for one of them, I just wrote the Wi-Fi credentials to this one. And for example, when we have some guests, I can give them to just move their phone towards it and they can just accept it and just connect to the Wi-Fi network that we have. But you can just write anything that you want inside the NFC chips. And also we have some Flame logo stickers here. So I think I'm going to stick this one to the laptop that we have. And yeah, so this is the prize from the Flame team, and I really appreciate their effort that they put into the Flame engine. I mean, it is valuable for the community and for everyone. And yeah, so I think it is enough for this video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe button, and stay tuned for the next video. Bye.